In this video, I'll quickly walk you through a design that was created in Photoshop for an animation in After Effects. So this was an image from a book that was scanned and then broken apart into all of these different elements that were then turned into an animation. So you can see how everything here is unlocked, number one, everything is named. Everything is in the correct order for position wise, and nothing is grouped because I want all of these different elements to move independently from one another. And there are a couple layers here that I would probably eventually want to erase, but this was the original image, so I just left it in there because in After Effects you can always turn it off. And I also had this black background so that I could see what my edges and my layer masks looked like. Holding down Option and clicking on these little eyeballs, you can see that the wallpaper was expanded on. In the original image, you only had a certain amount, and then using the retouching tools, I was able to create a wallpaper layer of its own. And then I was able to create just a floor layer. Here, there's the drawer. In the original image, it only had half, so I had to recreate the rest of this drawer using the retouching tools because I wanted the tail to move a little bit and it might have been catching some of that drawer area. I had to make the tail come out of the frame and I had to make sure that it was really large because it was going to be moving. I had to create new body parts for the dinosaur here. So I had to create a blink of the eye so that in the animation it would be blinking. I had to remove the arm and make sure that it was able to move on its own so that it could rotate in the animation. And you can see here that the part under the arm isn't as nicely retouched as, say, this drawer, because the image under the arm will be very rarely seen because it was doing such small movement. So it's really important to keep in mind the movements that you are wanting. Here, so we can go into this little hat and this teddy bear. I just wanted the teddy bear to be moving up and down like it was bobbing in this cup of tea. I don't have the whole bear. I actually cut off that part of the bear so that I didn't have to do more work than necessary because you wouldn't be seeing any of that. And then for each of these drops, I wanted these moving independently from one another. So I had to make each one of these its own layer. Notice how everything is named, so I know that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is the drop 5 and drop 6. There's these different elements here, so the vase has been separated so that it can move around on the table. The boy, he has this little horn, and this was removed so that it could be moving a little bit. In the hand, I had to create a little part of the hand on top of the horn so that it didn't look silly if the horn was just on top of it there. So there's just so many different things that you have to consider when working with animation, but it's really important to keep in mind what kind of movements you want your layers to have, and that way you can determine how you need to cut up your image. And I personally find that working with the clone stamp and the patch tool and content aware is so beneficial to filling in all of these areas. Without those tools, you're kind of stuck. But you can also create your own objects rather than breaking up an image. And in that case, you don't have to work with as many retouching tools to patch up the backgrounds. When you are creating your own assets, you need to understand how you want things to move and how you would like the layers to interact with each other. Now, this is another design that was created in Photoshop for animation in After Effects, And with these, I wanted all of these objects to be moving around the screen. So in this case, I built a canvas that was much larger than that video area so I could zoom in on it and I didn't have to be working in such a small area. So these are a bunch of different assets that were created Photoshop, so this is more of a realistic example here. And all these different layers were created with a purpose here. So I have this book, and I wanted to start out the animation with the book opening. So it was important here that I had the journal cover, and then I went and found paper and put that under the journal cover so that when the journal cover went away, you could see that there was still paper underneath. I was able to find splatter paint just using a Photoshop brush, just a bunch of different textures and different kinds of paper, different objects. And with these, I added the layer effects. So you can see there's the drop shadows on each of these, and then those translated over to After Effects seamlessly because After Effects, like I said earlier, still remembers the opacities and the layer styles and blending modes and things like that. So you can really build your entire animation inside of Photoshop with all of these different effects. And then when you bring it into After Effects, you can start getting things to move around. When working with these designs, you really have to be aware of all of the overlapping that happens here. So this one, I have this clipboard and I have all these papers. But if I were to just set the papers on top of the clipboard, it would look really silly because there's no clip on top of the paper. So what I had to do is create another layer on top of this so that there was that realistic overlapping of images. There's so many different things that you can do with Photoshop and After Effects together, but really taking advantage of the Photoshop workspace and making sure everything is built and ready to go will save you so much time once you do get into the animation process.